protests continued in Lancaster following a deadly police shooting. We have live team coverage starting with News 8's Matt Burcaro, who's in the city this morning. Matt?
Good morning, Lori. Those protests have now ended. They ended about an hour and a half ago in downtown, focused primarily right outside the police station where we are. You can see that there is cleanup underway right now because there is a lot of debris and trash left over. This ramp is where some of the protests started last night. You can see, get out of the way as this moves in. Police were trying to clear the protesters who were gathered on the ramp, linking arms and walking up closer to the building. When the crowd did not obey that order, police say that that's when they deployed tear gas. You can even see some tear gas canisters that are remaining here on the ramp. And from there, things got a little violent with the protesters throwing bricks and whatever else they had or could find at the police station. The front door, the glass is shattered, and everything else you can see is in a little state of disarray here. We have some video of what happened after that, where some protesters took a dumpster, dragged it to the corner of Chestnut and Prince Street, and set that on fire. There were also around 2:30 some police that were detaining some of the protesters who would not move out of the way. And that is when things really started to calm down. And that is the situation where we are this morning. Coming back live, there is also some graffiti right outside the police station. You can read "Rest in Power, Ricardo Munoz." Munoz is the man who police shot and killed yesterday, and that is under investigation. So for more on the shooting, what led to these protests overnight, we'll turn to News 8's Corinne Lillis, who's standing by live. Corinne. Good morning, Lori. This protest really happened in two phases. The first one was yesterday evening, and that was largely peaceful. There were several hundred people who gathered outside the Lancaster City Police Station here to protest the death of a man who was shot and killed yesterday afternoon in a different part of the city. Most of the people dispersed, but some stayed, and that is the crowd that was agitated and grew violent here outside. You can see they threw a lot of things towards the police station here, including the plants that were inside this planter, ripped them out and threw them towards police. A few of the windows and the front door of the police station, that glass was shattered, and we can see some bricks that are still in the road here. Later on into the evening, earlier this morning, we have some video of what happened right at the corner of Prince and Chestnut Street, which is right outside the police station. Some protesters dragged a dumpster to that intersection and set it on fire. There's also a lot of commotion in this part of the city, and police cleared those protesters out. We did see at least two people who were detained by police because they refused to get out of the way. Coming back live here, we want to show you some graffiti that was also left here yesterday. It says "Rest in Power, Ricardo Munoz." Munoz is the man who police shot and killed yesterday. And the protesters told me that they want accountability. And a lot of this stems from some unanswered questions, some unproven results in their mind that came from the George Floyd protests earlier this year. And this is just something that happened in their community, and they wanted to speak up. So for more on Munoz and the shooting that led to this, let's go live to Corinne Lillis. Corinne. Good morning, Lori. In that intersection you just saw, there had been a dumpster that some of the protesters set on fire. We'll show you that video in a minute here. But first I want to take you to the outside of the Lancaster City Police Station. This is where a bulk of the protests happened yesterday evening into the night, and then also into this morning. There was a core group of protesters who refused to leave, and those were the ones who caused some of the damage to the police station here. This is the ramp where police say about 100 or so of the protesters locked arms and walked up the ramp, getting closer and closer to the police station. Police say that's when they used tear gas to try to break up that group. While this was going on, the protesters used things like rocks and bottles. Even this planter, it's empty. They ripped out the plants that were in here to throw in the direction of police. Now we want to show you that video of what happened this morning. This was around 2:30 this morning, as some of the protesters were still here protesting the police, demanding police accountability, and not getting out of the way. There was that dumpster that was set on fire. Some of the protesters we saw were detained by police, and police were doing their best to disperse them to get some calm, because these protests did last several hours into this morning. They're also coming back live here right outside near this ramp where everything was going down. Someone sprayed this into the concrete. Rest in power, Ricardo Munoz. Now, Munoz is the man who police shot and killed yesterday, and that is what led to all of these protests. So let's go to Corinna Lillis, who has more on the shooting and what happened.